or if Thank you, Hannah. Or if some emergency pops up, you need to go to the bathroom, your kids need you, whatever it is, feel free to take care of those things. And then notice that, or the second thing is that the deck that we're using today will also be sent out. It's short and sweet. It's just got a couple of things in there, as well as a sneak preview of something that is not yet out. But that way you can share that out with your colleagues or your teachers or anyone else that you want to be able to get some more information about these updates. To introduce myself formally, I'm Laura. I lead the success team here at LiveSchool. And so we are always excited to work with all of you about the ways that you're putting LiveSchool into action, hearing all of your stories and sharing them with others. And then I'm joined here by my lovely colleague, Hannah. I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. Obviously, I'm still figuring out the Zoom thing, but I'm the product marketing manager here at LiveSchool, and we're super excited to talk a little bit about the new updates in LiveSchool that are available. So happy to be here.
All right, and so let's kick things off officially. So one of the biggest updates that we've made in the spring here is something that we are calling the action bar. And it was created because we had a lot of confusion from teachers and from you around what are all the different things that you can do in LiveSchool? How do you find them? What do these little icons mean? How can I access them? And so specifically with the action bar, you and all of your teachers are now able to access all of those tools with a single click. So it is no longer hidden in that top 3 dots menu, and you can see at a glance what each tool does. I don't know how many times you may have been explaining to your colleagues or to your teachers that these 6 little icons mean that you can select all of your students. Now we've included that helpful textual description so you can see that as well. Or maybe you didn't know that the randomizer existed. And if you haven't, well, then let me show you what that looks like in action. So if I am currently about to give points to a group of students and I choose the randomizer, this automatically picks a student for me. I can then use that student to read something in class, to answer a question, to lead us in an experiment, activity, whatever the case might be. And one of the coolest things about our randomizer is that we remember every single student that we've chosen to make sure that no student is picked again before all students go at least once. So you could sit there and faithfully run your randomizer again and again and make sure that every single student in your class gets a chance before the randomizer will reset and go through all of your students again. So on this action bar that you're seeing here, right, you've got that ability to select all of your students, to deselect your students, to run that randomizer. Also, once the randomizer has chosen someone, you can open up your timeline and see all of the different points that this student has received from any teacher across all of time. If you are an admin or if you are a teacher that's provided these points, you see that option to undo them. All of this is exactly like the LiveSchool you've grown to know and love, but you're able to do all of this in one click from that action bar. And we've got some other things that are in that action bar, including this dashboard. So if you want to see a graphical representation of how your students are doing over time, as well as calling out their best hits, their top point earning situations, the top teachers that have been providing them points, the rewards that they're the most excited about. Or if you'd like to use a timer to set up, maybe you've got an activity that's coming up, and some of our teachers love the music that you can use to associate with the timer. You've also got a stopwatch if you want to be able to time students, and a calculator if you're doing some math together and you want to be able to display that over your points. All of those are going to be available in that action bar for you or for any of your teachers to use. So feel free to check that out and see what that looks like in action. We also heard quite a lot of feedback from staff around when we are actually looking at all of the points on our screen, we're not sure why the points that we gave yesterday have disappeared. Or did we give all these points, or was this all teachers? Was this just me? We wanted to make sure that we cleaned all that up. And so what we are now displaying is the time frame that you are currently viewing. That's going to be in that top left of your screen. And you can easily flip back and forth between just today, which is the default, or showing points given yesterday, this week, this month, year to date. That's going to be all the way since July 1st to now. You can also flip back and forth between whether they're points that you have given or whether they're points that all of the teachers have given. So at a quick glance, maybe you want to know who are your top earning students. Well, you can now see that by controlling this menu and saying, I want to see all of the points given for the whole year to date. And I want to see the points that have been given by every single teacher in my school. And now I can see, okay, out of all of my students, how are they doing? Which ones have more points than others? Bill Henderson, having a great year, right? Has already gotten 158 positive points, also 107 demerits, but clearly is working on a lot of things there. Whereas there's some students who might need a little bit more love, right? So we've got like Edith Trice, who's only gotten 32 points so far this year, and we're already close to March. But this is a great way to be able to see and interact with this information. And the settings that you're used to having are still present. So if you wanted to rearrange your students to show you the ones who have gotten the most points, you can still go into your settings and say, instead of showing them sorted by name, show them sorted by merits. And this is going to automatically resort your kids to have the ones who have the most merits in the top left and the ones who have the fewest merits in the bottom right. These are the kids that might need a little bit more love, for example. So that is now still present with that action bar, with that ability to reset your time frame. And the last thing is that now that people are getting used to what this looks like from the points screen, we also want to make sure we keep that experience really consistent on the reward screen. So on the reward screen, you're also going to see that action bar to make sure that you have that easy access to all the tools that you want to be able to use. And if you've never tried our fast checkout feature, especially if you've got an upcoming raffle or if you've got a less expensive item that a lot of your students are going to want to be purchasing now that we're getting towards the end of Q3, then our fast checkout feature allows you to say, okay, all of these kiddos want to be able to participate in this raffle or get this specific reward by starting with that item first. So for example, I might have a raffle for ice cream or an upcoming event that people are going to, like a field trip. I can start with that specific item, see how many times it's already been purchased. That's what those little yellow ones indicate, that these students have already purchased a raffle for the upcoming field trip, and then pick all of the other students who are interested in getting that raffle ticket for the upcoming field trip and give it to them all at once. So this is our fast checkout feature where you can get all of those students through your checkout experience at once. All right, now all of those things have been released in the last couple of weeks, or for some of you, just today, you should have started seeing it for the first time. So when you log into LiveSchool, you should have that action bar present on both your reward screen and on your point screen. But there are a couple of things that this action bar allows us to do that are not yet present out there in the wild. And so congratulations on being here for a sneak preview. Something we're particularly excited about in this sneak preview is the fact that with this action bar, we can introduce absences. So specifically, you will be able to choose any number of students in your class and mark them as absent so that when you use the features like select all or the randomizer, it won't choose any of your absent students. Now, this is something we've heard from so many of you, and we're quite thankful that you gave us this feedback because now we're able to turn around and provide you with this. Now, if any student comes into class, so they're no longer absent, you're also able to just click them to reactivate them. But let's see what this looks like in action. So in the point screen, in just a few weeks from now, you'll be able to say, okay, I've got these kiddos here, but Julia is not here anymore. She left for the day. Ruby never came in, and Natalie is with the dean, so isn't going to be coming to my class. I can mark them as absent. Now, when I go to select all, maybe my class is having a great discussion. I want to give points to all of them. When I choose select all of the students who I've already marked as absent and the 3 that I just chose right there are grayed out. They are not being chosen. They are not going to receive those points. So if I go and I say, wow, everyone else is having such attentive behaviors today, so appreciative of it, it gives the rest of those students those points while making sure that my absent students are not receiving them. All right, so I know that we've hopefully that rocks your world and gets you really excited about some things that are up and coming here. Let's open it up to any questions that you might have. And I know that Hannah has been faithfully overseeing both our chat and our Q&A. Anything that's come in that people are wondering about as it relates to the action bar that's out and present now, or absences that are up and coming?
Nobody has chatted in yet, but at this point it's Q&A time. So Betsy, it looked like you had raised a hand. Was that on purpose or by accident? I can allow you to talk. I can allow everyone to talk. I'm gonna make everyone allowed to talk, so you can just unmute yourself and ask away.
Go for it, Betsy.
I just have one question.
Sure.
When are you going to update the class lists for this year? Because with my live school, I still have role groups for last year, so the ones for this year haven't appeared anywhere.
Yeah, so in terms of the students that are actually in rosters in your classes, great question. So your school's site leaders actually control all of that information flowing in unless you are connecting via Clever, in which case your district does. But you or any teacher is able to control like what they're seeing in terms of all of their students. So if you've got some classes in place that you think are out of date or that you don't need to work with anymore, in that roster selector, you can always choose to hide different classes. So if this is a group of students that you're not working with, but maybe you were in the past, you can always choose to hide that roster, and then it won't show up under your My Rosters. You haven't deleted it, you've just basically archived it so that it's no longer appearing there. Or if you've got a group of kiddos in front of you that you would like to be able to put together in one place and maybe there isn't a roster created for them yet, you can also create a roster at any time. In that setup screen under rosters, you could say, I see this group of students first thing on Monday mornings or whatever the case might be. And so under rosters, you can make a new roster. Maybe it's your Monday morning English 1 class. And then in that English 1 class, you could add your students that are in your school from any of the other rosters that they're in, including any of the grades that they're in. So if you've got some 5th graders in there, you can add your 5th graders. If you've got some 6th graders or 9th graders or any other the grade levels that you're working with, you can always add your students to it. And that way, once you've got that roster created, you can use that to give points or to give rewards. It'll be available in your My Roster picker. So in this case, since it's called our Monday morning, it's going to be under the M's, and there's that Monday morning English 1 class.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Looks like Elizabeth has a question. Elizabeth, if you want to just unmute.
Yeah, thank you. I am noticing that our school seems to have a little bit of a struggle with what to do when you have a substitute teacher. You know, the kids want their points, but I've noticed it seems to be really labor intensive for like our HR person. Like if you have 12 teachers absent, like now they have to figure out the rosters, and substitutes have to mark who should be getting points and who shouldn't and other things. And I was just wondering if you guys have thought about that, like how, you know, what's an easy way to schools to not penalize students for having a substitute teacher, but still not make it so that we have somebody spending an hour trying to put in live school points for all of the teachers who are absent.
Absolutely. Yeah, so one of the ways that we see a lot of schools do this is they actually just make a user or a teacher that is the representative of all of their absent or in this case, substitute teachers. So they'll just go into the user section, for example, and they'll say a new user that we're calling just like substitute teacher or temporary teacher, and they'll make them an email address that makes sense for their school district. So in our case, it might be substitute@liveschoolinc.com, but you can do it at CPSCD.edu, you can do it at LAUSD, all of those things. And then that person represents all of the people that are coming in for the day. So they're able to log in and provide those points to all those kiddos without having to necessarily put it on your HR person, your clerk, whoever it is that's having to put those points in later. You can direct every substitute when they walk in the building to be able to use this account to provide points to students. We've also seen a lot of schools do this in a really cool way with like parent liaisons or visitors that are coming in to do things like read to different kindergarten, first grade, second grade classes. They'll use something like a parent at or a visitor at, and that way they're encouraging not only their regular staff but also their visiting adults to come by and say like, I love what's happening here, and give them points in that way too.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll throw out here is if you do decide to go that route, one of the coolest things about LiveSchool is that they don't have to, for example, create a roster. If they're subbing or they already know whose class they're taking over for, all of the teachers are accessible and all of their rosters are accessible. So as long as they know who they're subbing for, they could just say, oh, I'm subbing for Miss Apple today. I'm going to grab Miss Apple's, class or whatever the case might be, without having to recreate those rosters for themselves.
Okay, I didn't even know that could happen. Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Cynthia also has her hand up. Cynthia.
Didn't somebody tell you that we had a little titer-tater?
So there has been a couple of times I forgot to open LiveSchool and realized, oh my gosh, it's the end of the day and all the kids are gone, but I kind of knew who did what. Is there a way to go in and put in the information? Now, I'll say this. I know if I put in the attendance and forget to put in everything else, I can go back. And I saw that link to say, how to click to go back. But if I've had a difficult time when I didn't put anything in and I tried to, and let's say it's the next day when I realized.
Yeah.
So is there a way to do that?
Yeah, great question. So let's say it's the end of the day and you realize that, Brianna, Quayshawn, Harry, Nicole, they all needed to get points for demonstrating respecting self and using language appropriately, but you actually meant to give that much earlier in the day. On this action bar, you're also going to see the ability to backdate your points to a previous day or a previous time. So if you were writing it down, keeping it on top of your clipboard or on your whiteboard, you can always say they actually meant to get these points a lot earlier this afternoon, like 12:47. And when you go to give those points to the students for 12:47, it'll be noted in the timeline that it happened at 12:47. So when the students look at it, when the families look at it, when the other teachers see it, they'll all see that those students received those points at 12:47 as opposed to right now. And then the same thing is true if you meant to give the points yesterday. So sometimes we get busy, totally understand. If you're running out at the end of the day and you meant to give, 2, 3, the whole class points for yesterday, you can do the same thing. You can go in and you can say, oh, yesterday they were all on time and prepared. Let me make sure that I gave them that point for yesterday at, say, 10:48 a.m. or whatever the case might be. And that way all of the students will get that point showing up for yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Betsy's having some trouble with her microphone, but she typed in her questions to Q&A. So essentially she's wanting a printer friendly way to print off like the week's behaviors rather than waiting on like the recap email each week.
Oh, great question. Well, Betsy, this is a fantastic thing that I'd love to be able to share with you. So one of the things that is currently out for just a few of our schools that is testing it out, it's kind of our early users, but that we are currently working on getting out to all of our schools, is probably something that you're going to enjoy called printables. And so printables makes it possible for you to print off all of the information about what your students have received in whatever time period that you'd like to be able to share with them. So for example, if I choose a day, a week, a month, the entire quarter or semester, I can have whether a simple a layout that has all of the different information about the behaviors that they've earned, both positives and negatives, and any comments that the teachers have provided. Or I could do it in a more paycheck layout. So for those of you who remember the paychecks or who are excited by having that financial literacy piece of students earning points towards their bank account, you might choose this option. And then you can either choose an entire grade level or roster, or in the case what you're describing, where you just want to send one student down, or maybe just two students that got into a particular scuffle. You can choose those students, or you can choose, that entire group that you're working with. And so if I've got in here, for example, that roster that I was just working with in terms of my, math students that are all in that Monday morning English or whatever the case might be, I can always generate that information and be able to share that with them. In this case, if I've got like a group of students that I've been working with, I have like a Litton's Lair. It's like a group of students that I meet with before school starts to make sure that we go through some tutoring together and getting them ready. Then I can print this off for them, and they'll see those merits on there, any demerits, and then the associated comments for all those students.
Betsy's wondering if she can get in on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we've got just about 100, maybe 150 of our schools trying this out, but we're hoping to get that out to all of the other schools in the next couple of weeks here. So as long as they try that out and it works the way that they wanted to, you should see it in just the next couple of weeks.
Okay, it looks like, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Mikkel? Is that?
Yes, you did pronounce it correctly. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
cool. So I have kind of two questions. I saw somebody in the chat asked about displaying the dashboard on screens. So currently we also have screens in our hallways and stuff, but we're using LiveSchool at like two separate campuses. So we have a high school campus and a junior high campus, but it's all the same kind of account, if you will. And basically, I guess the first question is there a way to kind of customize the dashboard to which rosters are being seen? So I haven't found a way, and so it just shows all of them, but then that also shows the junior high, which the high schoolers don't really care, and then the junior high doesn't care about the high school. They just want to see their own. And so I've just been making my own week to week and updating them kind of periodically. But if I didn't have to do that, that would be really cool. Is there a way to kind of customize what rosters are shown? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think you're specifically talking about in the house points dashboard, right? So you've got
Yes.
one house points dashboard. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what some of our schools do that are kind of mixed level buildings, like you're describing, is they actually have two separate LiveSchool sites. And so they'll say like, these are our middle schoolers are on the one site and our high schoolers are on the other site. I do have a quick cheat on the way that you could quickly set up this, but it wouldn't be long-term where you could display both of them simultaneously. And that is that all of your houses are just rosters. And so you could, for example, say, okay, the rosters that I want to display today are blue, red, and yellow, but I don't want to display green. So I'm just not going to display that roster. And then it's going to show you all the points that are being earned by blue, yellow, or blue, red, and yellow. But then when you want to display the high school one, or when you want to have a different one that's up there, you could say, okay, now I would like to be able to display, and then you'd go to that house setup and you'd say, okay, now I want to add green, or I want to add any of my other rosters that are in there. But to your point, that wouldn't be a simultaneous thing. That would be a like either or. I think it's a great idea. And so I will say you're not the first person to ask about like a way to customize what our house points dashboard might show. In the meantime, what I've also seen a lot of schools do is, because all of your houses are rosters, they'll also look to have conversations in that insights scoreboard for their different rosters to be able to compare them to one another. This isn't as friendly to display for all of your kiddos who are looking at those points, but it does give you a quick way of kind of seeing like which rosters are and how many merits and demerits are they earning towards one another. But to your point, I will absolutely share that with our team of like a way for admin or maybe even teachers to pick like house dashboard A versus house dashboard B when I go to display it. Yeah, very cool idea.
Would be cool. The second question, if I can,
please.
hog the time and ask two questions. Is in the this is also in the house dashboards, looking at the scoreboards. So in insights in the scoreboards where I'm looking at top students, top behaviors, all of that stuff, top teachers. So if I'm looking at a specific roster, and this might be just we set it up weird, and so we kind of have to deal with that. But we have, for example, an item that gives them merits. It's kind of like acts of service kind of thing, and they have to get so many service hours, and so each hour is basically a point. And so, you know, we have a student who maybe somehow collected, I don't know, 10 service hours. And so instead of going into the teachers, having the teachers put in, you know, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point over and over, we just set up specific buttons to say, here's 1 point, here's 5 points here, you know, so that way it just speeds up the process a little bit. The trouble with it works, and it makes it faster to add those points up quicker. But then when you go into top behaviors, it like separates them, but they're technically the same thing. You know what I mean? So then the top behavior is service, but for 10, service for 5, service for 4. Does that make sense? Is there a way to clean that up that you could think of, or is that kind of?
It was a really good question. I think one of the ways that you could consider this is, so right now we're showing, and the default for everyone is the total number of points that all of the students have received. And so even as you're describing it, not by scoreboard, by student, by scoreboard, by behavior, this is the total number of points that have been given for each of these. But you can also display this information by the total number of times that it has been provided. And so although 1 10-point would only be counted as 1, there is a way of being able to say, don't weight them by points, and instead show me the total number of times that they've been provided. But there isn't a, like you're describing, way to merge 3 separate behaviors together. Like there is a way to be able to pull out and say, for all of the students, I just want you to show me the total number of points they've gotten for acts of service, which could be another way to approach this. So I don't know if you've done the like scoreboard, look at our students, and then say, show me all of the points that have been given just for that specific category. So maybe you've got like an acts of service category, or if I'm using like responsible decision making, all of the different behaviors in that category will now be filtered to show me just the students who have gotten the most points within that category. Or you could do like specific behaviors. So then you could say, okay, out of all of my kiddos who have gotten, if the 10-point active service is worth 10 and the 1-point active service is worth 1, show me the kiddos who have gotten the most number of acts of service points, and that will then be filtered to show you that. And you could go a step further and say, like, add logic that they have to have more than 0, and now you've got a nice concise list of only the kids who have X number of points in this specific category or for these specific behaviors.
Okay, cool. So you can make a category for the different, is that what you're saying? It's like a folder with these types of points belong to this category. Oh,
yeah. So the category relating back to your rubric categories. So you could have like an acts of service category, have all of your different acts of service in amounts, and then say, show me all the points being given for every behavior in this category.
Right on. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you don't want to change your categories, because a lot of people's rubrics are sacred and they don't want to change them up, especially mid-year, totally understand. You can also call out just the behaviors. So you could say, for these students, show me the ones who have gotten, and then pull up the specific behaviors that they've gotten. So like on time and prepared, and the ones where they have used language appropriately, and just show me the points that they've earned for just those behaviors. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the question.
No problem. Thank you.
Another question is from Francisco in the chat. So he's wondering, can you show us an example of how to change a demerit to a merit as behavior is corrected?
Really interesting. So most schools, just to take a quick step backwards on the context here, have a very specific thought process as to how they want those merits and demerits to be recorded. For example, you'll see some behaviors that have an option to have a merit and a demerit option, some behaviors that only have a merit or a demerit option, but not both. And then for each of those, deciding if the school is taking demerits. So if students can receive demerit points, are they losing points from their bank account or not? And if this is set to yes, subtract, then students are actually having those points deducted from their overall bank account balance. So they'd have fewer points available in rewards. I throw all this context out here to then give this answer, which is that once you've given a point, whether it is a merit or a demerit to a student, if you want to undo it, so for example, if I go, Brianna is having a day, right? And Brianna is really struggling. Brianna was not on time, was not prepared, did not complete classwork, wasn't following procedures, whatever the case might be there. All of those things go out to Brianna, who's just struggling. Then Brianna really turns it around, right? She's able to just go to the bathroom, wash her face. She's got a new course of what she wants to accomplish for the afternoon. And she really comes back and she's displaying a fantastic attitude. She's helping others. She's brought all of her materials. She's completed her homework. And I want to take that same demerit that Brianna received and I want to undo it. I want to remove it. I want to make sure that those points are no longer being counted against Brianna, or in this case, where my school is not subtracting them, I no longer want it noted. Right? I can, as the teacher, always go in and undo the point that I've done for Brianna so that those negative pieces of feedback that I've provided for Brianna are no longer being noted. Brianna wouldn't see them, Brianna's family wouldn't see them, the other teachers wouldn't see them. Or that would be one way to do it. More often than not, what schools will do instead of that is Brianna still had that day in the beginning of the day, right? Didn't come on time or prepared, didn't complete classwork, didn't follow procedures. Wow. But now as the day goes on, she's really turned things around for herself. She's jumped in, she's answered questions, she's helped her classmates. They, instead of undoing it or removing the fact that that happened, show that Brianna is demonstrating growth. And so now that Brianna has come in and has completed classwork after initially not completing it and started to follow procedures, they'll go to give that additional point to Brianna. And one of the best things about this comment option is that you can explain how, earlier in the day, Brianna was really struggling, but, she was able to turn it around and participate in class fully. And now Brianna has that note. Brianna's family has that note. All of the other teachers have that note. And it's not undoing the growth that we are calculating for Brianna, right? This is a journey for all of our students. And Brianna's journey started with a rough morning, but then she was able to continue adding on and demonstrating all the positive behaviors that we want to. So Francisco, I don't know if that exactly answers your question about how to undo. You do always have the option of undoing it or removing it if you feel like it's no longer accurate. I will say most schools, as opposed to undoing it if it changes, they'll actually add it on top of to show that complete story of what happened to Brianna.
So my question was more based on, right, I don't know how it looks like on the parent side, what they see, but one question I do ask is, are those demerits removed? Because I guess I don't know if they see it, the green and the red as we do. And
yes,
they want to see if it can be changed over or if it's gone at some point.
Yeah, so I'm happy to show you what it looks like from the parent side so that you can see this. And we've also got a complete walkthrough that Hannah actually recorded of exactly what this parent account looks like. But what a parent sees when they log in for any student is they've got a timeline of the last 3 weeks worth of information about how the student has been faring, which points they've received, which teachers have provided them, whether it's a merit or a demerit shows up as either a +1 or plus whatever the number was worth, or a -1 or a minus whatever the number was worth in green or red. Any comments that the teacher has provided would be associated with those points. And then the parent will also be able to see the store, just like the student can, and whether or not this student has enough points to be able to purchase something in that store, or if they still need to earn more points. So in this case, when the parent, to your point, is seeing those demerits, they're seeing a full understanding of what Benjamin, as my sample student, has done, right? Which sometimes Benjamin did not follow instructions, did not, participate in class fully, but then was able to turn it around, like if Benjamin was Brianna, and showcase these things. So in that case, for the parents, we would suggest showing them the full story, right? Showing them both the parts where Brianna or Benjamin in this case struggled, as well as where they were able to turn things around and have a better day.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also say that in addition to the parents logging in, if parents are using recaps, so if you've turned on recaps for your school and they are looking at the recaps of everything that's happened. So if we go and look at like Robin Thomas's recap, they're going to see all of the different points that students have earned across all of the different times. So one of the great ways about, kind of feeding in this way is that they can see the growth over time. So they'll see every time the student has earned both a positive or a negative point, and then any of the comments that the teachers provided, and they can compare that entire journey over time to be able to see like when these points came in. Is it a specific pattern, a specific day, or a specific time, and which teachers are providing those points and for what reason? And they can always compare that for the whole year, which is nice. All right. Well, it looks like some of our questions have been answered. So thank you all for providing such great questions. And just know that if you do have more, that our team is always jazzed to be able to jump in and support you. So Amanda, DJ, myself, Susap, Hannah, we're all former teachers, school leaders that are super excited about helping you get LiveSchool up and running in your classrooms and in your schools. If you ever need us, feel free within LiveSchool to always reach out using this big, helpful yellow support button. You can start a chat with us. You can search for any help. So if you were like, how the heck did Laura undo that point? You can always search and see that full walkthrough of how to undo a point. As well as you can always schedule a time to share your screen with us. So maybe something's driving you crazy and you just need someone to point and click where it's supposed to go. Feel free to schedule that time for us. And then if you are looking for example, that complete walkthrough, what does a parent see? What does a student see? This is where those great videos are that Hannah's recorded. So she'll tell you everything you need to know about what a kid sees and what a parent sees, as well as what the teacher entire experience looks like and what the site leader experience looks like. So all of that's going to be available. And so feel free to reach out to us at any time to make sure that you get all of your questions answered there. And then more than anything, we just want to say thank you for being amazing educators. We know you're always looking for those great solutions for your students. Don't forget, we'll send out this recording and this deck to all of you so that you can use that, share it, spread it, love it, whatever you'd like to do with it. And we'll hang out here for just a few more minutes in case there's any last minute questions. But thank you again. And let us know what you think of the action bar.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice evening.
You
Have a
too.
great evening.